Hey everyone, welcome to the product briefing series of the Hunt Club podcast. This is where we dive deep into our technology and explore what it really means for a security team. If you've been enjoying this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, we're going to talk about using metadata to enhance security posture. My name is Tiffany Nip, Product Marketing Manager at Vectra AI, and I'm joined by Julian, our Security Engineer at Vectra AI. Julian, do you want to give a quick intro of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me again, Tiff. I've been with Vectra now for almost 3 years, and for most of it, I've been in a different role than the security engineer. I was part of the MDR team for 2.5 years, doing investigations as an analyst, and also, of course, communicating our findings to our customers in the MDR service.
Yeah, perfect. So let's hop into the next slides. So one of the use case of metadata is to meet data retention and audit requirement. And we've also been seeing security teams enhancing their security posture too. So Julian, can you walk us through how these customers achieve that?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of use case really, I think, flies a bit under the radar. But if you are gathering all this network metadata about really everything that's going on in the network and you have it available to you and searchable pretty easily, then yeah, why not use this to also validate certain compliance requirements and also check your posture on different kinds of just yeah methods and techniques or kind of attacks that are out there and how you basically stack up to them.
Yeah.
And it goes as far as just like simple troubleshooting within the network. Really, just because like Vectra is a security solution doesn't really mean that all your use cases with the metadata needs to be strictly security, limited to security. So just a few things that you can do is just finding compliance and configuration issues within the network based on evidence you have in the network metadata. So it's not kind of the posture management approach where you have a tool that is actively like monitoring and checking your settings in certain like in your AD, for example, but it's more like based on what I'm seeing in the network. I'm sure there is a configuration issue with this and that. So it can, of course, it starts basically with checking what is really like going from your environment to the internet or vice versa. I think from the internet to your environment might be even more critical in a lot of cases. Of course, you have your firewall, but firewall rule sets are growing so big so quickly usually that it can be hard to really know like what kind of communication is allowed through your firewall. And of course, you can take an approach of looking at your firewall settings and making, in theory, this and that should be allowed. But in the metadata, you can just go there and see, like on these ports, there's actual communication to the internet or from the internet. And in a lot of cases, you will find unexpected things in there. Of course, what you don't want to find is like actual deprecated or like protocols that are known to be unsafe to be kind of exposed to the internet. Even that would be kind of the worst case.
Yeah.
And like others are just with your DNS or NTP server setup. Of course, all your like internal resources should first go to your internal DNS and NTP server to to resolve their DNS requests or to get the time. Of course, there can be a fallback mechanism implemented, but that's what it usually should look like. And then the DNS server, of course, the DNS server might resolve a request recursively, and external DNS servers are involved in that. But your like first hop should always be an internal DNS server, usually. And that's just stuff that, of course, you can find in the metadata and verify in the data we have.
And that also helps the security team to know the potential gaps that the attacker can exploit if they don't fix these issues as well, right? So it's also another way to protect the environment and also stay ahead of attackers before they can like find these issues and exploit them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, none of this is usually like a security issue at first, but it can
Yes.
become one very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have here on the slides before I jump into some examples. Of course, a lot of like for a lot of organizations, a big driver is of course also cost. And like cost can be induced by maybe like a lot of storage needs for, of course, the metadata maybe, or in your CM, but also general network bandwidth. Of course, if there's a lot of bandwidth that's being caused by a misconfiguration, if you resolve that, you can save a lot of money because maybe you don't need to upgrade your network infrastructure to the next like bigger switches and so on.
Right.
So yeah, to your point of something like your DNS setup becoming a security issue, I think this is a pretty good example of that.
Right.
So this one is about reverse DNS actually. So usually, of course, within your network, all the usually private IPs defined in the RSC 1918, they should have a reverse DNS zone defined for them within your DNS infrastructure. Because what can happen otherwise is that your DNS servers are relaying these reverse DNS requests to an external DNS server, which first of all, it will never result in, or it will never give good results because the external DNS server will not usually or shouldn't know about like your reverse DNS and your, yeah, like addressing internally. So it first of all is a problem for network performance because it will lead to timeouts, unresolvable requests, and so on. But in addition to that, if something like that happens, you of course give some kind of control over like resolving these internal requests to an external entity that you don't really have any control over. So if an attacker figures that out, they could actually misuse the circumstance to like just, yeah, they can make up basically responses to these requests that may suit their needs and serve their goals instead of, yeah, like what the actual requester wanted to hear. And yeah, this is another one where the new SQL-like advanced queries in Investigate will be very helpful because as of today, you will have to search for query ends with .10 dot and like all of these different patterns here in the lower right corner, each one individually, because unfortunately we can't have ends with and then multiple entries. But once we get the advanced queries here, we can, of course, formulate it in a way that like, yeah, covers everything just in one query.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
And yeah, that was my like kind of standout example for the compliance and troubleshooting side of things. I think it's a really interesting one that are not a lot of people have on their radar, but it highlights a lot of different possibilities of what can happen in a matter where you the security impact is not something you usually think about.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also helpful for customers to see these examples that you use in your MDR experience and also how you helped other customers so they have some ideas where to start to look for these compliance and even proactive posture use cases. And we will be creating more of these resources as well. And also, if some teams just think they are has too little resources to do that, we also always have our MDR team to be here and support 24/7 as well. So
yeah, one more comment I wanted to make is that we have this table of use cases here that I did not show. I only showed one of them now in detail. And in the other episodes, we already had similar tables of possible use cases and possible things to look for. Some of these will actually come to the saved searches that we will roll out or ship with the product. So they will be available to all Vectra customers at some time in the near future.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, so the customers don't need to write queries from scratch. You can always click a button and just load the saved query that we have already preloaded in your platform to hunt for all these use cases and check your posture. Make sure you're protected in all the ways that we can think of. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me again, Julian. And thanks everyone for tuning in. If you find this helpful, please like, comment, let us know your thought. And if you like more of this, I'll have Julian sit down with me again and we can talk more about the different use cases that he's seen. So yes, as we said, we do have other videos that we talk about the other use cases that we've covered. I'll link it on the screen. Please check them out. And with that, hope to see you in the next product deep dive session. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks, Tiff. It was a pleasure, and thanks everyone else for listening in.